Hello there, and welcome to episode 115 on the Airhug community. Hey, welcome everybody. If you are new here, and if you're not new here, welcome back. But if you're new here, I just want to give you the 411 on this podcast. This is the Airhug Community Podcast, and you can also think of it as a midlife mojo discussion board. So in this podcast, we come together to talk about midlife. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all the emotions. We talk about approaches for living better. We talk about all sorts of things. We bring in guests. And this is just something that was created as a need out of my business from Grateful Fitness of working with women. I wanted to have a place where we could come to talk about things further. And so this is the place. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's get after it.
Can you hear me now?
I sure can. Famous
Hi.
last words.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Can I just tell you, your book had me in stitches.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And then sometimes it just had me like stopped in my tracks. And I'm like, I just think it would be really fun to have you on and chat. So
I really appreciate that. I saw you on Instagram and you're in kick-ass shape. I got to tell you, kudos to you. Props for how you look, honestly.
Thank you. I try not to be identified by my looks, but it's nice to get a compliment. So I'm going to say thank you, right?
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for hopping on and giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was lovely to be asked. And I'm in New York. Where are you at? You sound a little south of me.
No, actually, I'm in Rochester. Do you know where that is?
Of course. So you're a little upstate of me. So you're north of me.
I am north and west.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. All right. So we're both New Yorkers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have kids that live one daughter lives with her husband and kids in Park Slope.
Oh, that's where four of my oldest ones are, like right next door. They're in Crown Heights, but they used to be, they were in Borum Hill, but yeah, they're neighbors.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
I love going there. And I don't get there often enough to see those babies. And then we have another set of son, wife, and babies in Suffolk County.
Oh, so yeah, closer to me, actually. And so you have two kids?
No, I have four.
You have four?
Those are the two that are in New York. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Huh.
One here in Rochester and one in California. The other two are single and younger.
Got it.
Yeah. And you have three boys.
Three boys and now three girls to go with the three boys. One's a girlfriend, one's a fiance, and one's a wife.
Nice. Oh, you got it all covered.
Got it all covered. Hat trick of I got it all going on. Yep. I have a big age gap, 21 to almost 31. So they're in different places in their lives. So
that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Well, you get what you get.
You get what you get and you decide it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. That's true. All right. I'll tell you what, I just have a couple of questions and then we'll just let conversation go the way it goes.
I'm an open book. Ask me anything.
Oh, cool. Okay. I pulled up your book a little bit too where am I right now? I think I'm in an interview with me. Is that going to be too much? Will you be like, what did I write? Or should we just go on?
You can anything. I'm good. Anything really.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can always refer. I have two books, actually. I don't know. The first one was a very quick read. It was a pandemic project. And then realizing that I could do it, I wrote the second book.
Well, that's going to be one of my questions. So we'll get to that. Good.
Okay.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Airhug Community Podcast. Today, we have the privilege of having an author on, and The name of her book is so hysterical. We're going to get to in a minute, but I just want to introduce, oh my God, I forgot your last name, our author, Marlene.
Marlene Curran Fisher.
There you go, Marlene Curran Fisher. So Marlene, go ahead, introduce yourself.
So I am a wife, a mom of 3 sons, and now 3 daughters that go with the sons. And I have a blog on Facebook, Thoughts from Mile 4. I have almost 37,000 followers. And it's a wonderful community that I started several years back. And during the I also help kids with their college essays. That's my primary gig. But during the pandemic, I wrote a quick little book based on some blogs that I had done about a pandemic wedding. That one was called Gained a Daughter, but Nearly Lost My Mind, how I planned a backyard wedding during a pandemic. And then since that project turned out pretty well, I wrote my most recent book, which you found, and that one is Trapped in My Sports Bra and Other Harrowing Tales, all true stories.
And can I just tell you, yes, so what connected me to you was Trapped in My Sports Bra. I mean, the title alone just had me laughing. I'm like, oh, she gets me.
True story. It happened. I needed 6 months of PT to fix my shoulder after that. Now it was the type of bra that doesn't hook, that goes over your head. And I gained a few pounds and I was a little sweaty and the bra was tight and I got it a little bit up somewhere in this region and then got trapped and was thinking, wow, I'm kind of in big trouble here. And I should have probably cut it off, but I kept wriggling out of it until I damaged my rotator cuff, believe it or not. You can't call 911 because that's not going to work out very well. So it was really, I was starting to have a panic attack. And that was one of my most popular blogs on my page. Women so identified, they said they've been trapped in dresses, in dressing rooms where you slip it on and then you can't get it back over. One woman said she keeled over trying to get it off. She broke a leg in a dressing room. She shopped till she dropped. And
oh my God, for real.
Yeah, for real. So people really identified. And as we're middle aging, I mean, it's not just middle agers, but as we're middle aging, things are starting to, that new car smell just doesn't, is a little bit gone. So we've been around we have a few miles on us. So things start breaking down a little.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. So let's go to your Trapped in My Sports Bra. So book. Title is genius. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that you had to suffer such an industry.
Oh, good. I can do this now. It's all good.
I love it. Thank goodness you're recovered.
Yeah.
But we can all identify with that for sure. I've definitely been trapped, but managed to escape without injury. But what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I had been writing for a few collegiate sites and local magazines, and I even had a little thing in Modern Love and in the Times, and I had a lot of material over the past 5-6 years. And so I decided to take my favorite stories, the ones that had done well, and some newer stories, and compile them. So it's a collection of essays, true story essays, about life, raising my kids and becoming an empty nester and middle aging and love and loss and, a little bit about menopause and mental health issues, all the things that we women deal with, and hopefully things people can relate to.
I think it's very relatable. I mean, it's the thing about your book is it's ordinary and extraordinary at the same time.
Oh, wow. That's like maybe the best. I may have to write that down. The nicest compliment I've gotten.
Write it down.
Ordinary and extraordinary. Whoa.
At the same time, because folks, if you read this book, and I highly recommend you do, it's like you're going to nod your head. If you're a midlife woman, you're going to identify with so much of this. But the extraordinary part is I can't even put my finger on it. It's just, it's your take on it. And I just find it refreshing. At the same time, we're nodding our head like we get each other, but it's like, I don't know, you just got to read it.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. I do keep it real.
Yeah, you keep it real. Yeah.
It's not always pretty, but it is real. And as we get older, I find you have to be able to laugh and be open, and all pretense is gone at this point. It's if you can't be real, then I'm just I'm over that now. I don't even put any makeup on for this. I do have eyeliner, which I probably rubbed off, but I am less concerned about certain things than I used to be.
Yeah. Well, I think a certain amount of self-confidence comes with maturity, right? We've survived,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with experience counts for a lot of things.
Yeah, we should get something for it's a trade-off for all those aches and pains of middle age. We self-confidence, we get that in exchange. I'll take it.
We get it. We get, wisdom from learning a lot of lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And that's not so bad. Maybe at the time it is, but like when you're trapped in your sports bra.
Yeah. Well, I only have hooking bras now, so that's never gonna happen. See, I learned. Never ever gonna happen
again. Yeah. So let's talk about your first book, a pandemic book. What's the title of it again?
That one, I have it here, The Green Book. It's gained a daughter, but nearly lost my mind, how I planned a backyard wedding during a pandemic. It's a very quick read, very short. It's like a People magazine, basically. You can read it in the bathroom or before bed. I had dropped my youngest son off at college that September and sobbed because he's a peach and he was my baby, and I was going to finally be an empty nester for good or for bad. And I sobbed and I sobbed and I ugly cried. My husband looked at me in the car. He's like, "Oh God." And
what are we going to do with her?
Yeah, what are we going to do with her? 6 months later, this college closed. He came home. Middle son got furloughed from work. He came home with his girlfriend who was in college. She was here for a little bit. Oldest son came from Brooklyn with his fiance because they wanted to be in Westchester where we are. And they were staying at my mother-in-law's and then my mom's, and then in with us. So my empty nest got very full. And and they were about to get married. They had the invitations ready to go to the printer. It never made it to the printer because we ended up in lockdown. And their July 2nd wedding, now what do we do? They were, is it on? Is it off? If it's on, obviously we can't do 220 people. They weren't even allowing it in DC or anywhere. They wanted to go ahead with it. And being the mother of sons, I had always been like, yay, I don't have to plan a wedding. I did their bar mitzvahs, we're Jewish, but I was kind of happy I was getting out of that, but no, not so fast. So the bride was upset, but she handled it. My daughter-in-law handled it with grace and aplomb, and we managed to pull it off. And as it was happening, I was chronicling the whole thing on my blog, Thoughts from Mile 4. I have a wonderful, wonderful community, 37,000 followers, and people really, really, I think they were also trapped in their house. They had nothing else to do. So they were reading my stories about, is it on? Is it off? How are we doing it? That's when we were still all terrified. We were washing our groceries and we were Instacarting and we were so we ended up just having the 14 immediate family. Her family came from DC and they stayed in an RV in our driveway because they didn't want to go to a hotel. The house was full, and it was the most beautiful. We had two rustic tables and beautiful flowers, and they got a band that was on our deck, so they were far away from us. And it was just a lovely and perfect event, and from this big scaled thing to a scaled down do it yourself backyard wedding. And all the local people in town, the cake frame came from our a place in town, and the food came pre-plated because we didn't want to touch anything. Everything came hermetically sealed. And a local rabbi performed, and we had just a very simple chuppah, which is like the wedding canopy, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing came just all, it was just so beautiful, and they did not feel cheated. They felt very, I think, satisfied and happy with how it all turned out. So the story ended well, but that was the first book, true story of that. And then yeah, it was just kind of a lark that I did it, and then realizing that I had an audience and people asked for a second book. So the second book is longer, a little bit more of a real book, and perhaps there'll be a third book. We'll see.
Yeah, that is so neat. So planning the wedding. So let's get back to your 37,000 followers. Are they on Facebook, or is your blog on a dedicated website?
It's on Facebook. I used to do it on a WordPress site,
Yeah.
email dedicated, and it's still up, but I haven't really published much there. I just do it on Facebook. And originally I had 10 followers, all family members, and the community just grew and grew, and of all ages, men and women, and young, middle-aged, and old, but mostly in my demo. If I had to say, the majority is in our demographic, probably. And oops, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's grown. They're lovely, supportive, encouraging. I mean, we get some trolls and some nasty people, but overall,
Yeah.
and we discuss everything from some politics to, what's hurting today, and getting through all of it. And it's we laugh, we cry, we joke, it's a nice, and from everywhere. I once asked that people where they're from, and I got all 50 states, and I wrote them all down, and like a dozen countries, and a lot of Canadians, and Australia, and Asia, and New Zealand, and just Europe. It's incredible. So I know how the internet works, but it still amazes me that people can read and follow you from virtually anywhere.
You know what amazes me is that you managed to get, I mean, this speaks to your content, 37,000 followers on Facebook. When Facebook is really stingy with their algorithm and what
Terrible.
and you've done this without advertising?
Yeah, I don't advertise. I would now. Yeah.
So how much did really people need this? You have really, you're a storyteller.
Yeah, I collect stories and people, and honestly, my kids just gave me great material. They're just, and I'm happy to throw them under the bus. So they don't mind. I keep I don't tell everything. I'm not a tell-all site. I don't discuss, I'm not clickbait. I don't talk about my sex life. They're definitely, or there's certain things that are private, but yeah, I am the things that mostly I'm an open book, but not that open.
As open as you want to be.
Exactly. I mean, I have discretion, and I have daughter-in-laws, and that's, I do, if I'm not unsure, I run something by them and say, hey, is it okay if I write about this? And they don't really care for the most part, because they know I love them and I don't want to be hurtful.
So you're very thoughtful about respecting
the
subjects of your stories.
Yeah. For the most part, yeah. My sons, whatever, they don't need, they know. In the beginning, I sent them everything. I was so nervous, like, is this okay? Can you read it? And they're like, stop sending it to us. We don't want to read it. We don't really care all that much.
I think, didn't you put that in the sports bra book?
Yeah.
I think you did.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so funny. And it's so funny about how, well, now you have sons and daughters, how I feel like you communicate easily. Women communicate more easily with each other than with sons.
Totally. I have a chapter how my youngest is in the CIA. I think the whole college thing is a cover, that he's probably been working with them for, like, who knows what's really going on with him. They keep it pretty close to the vest. You don't know. I put up a meme that went viral recently that said, with boys, they could be married with 9 kids, and you might not know because they haven't mentioned it. So
that has been quoted all over social media. And so that originated from you. Can I tell you? I've seen all sorts of people, and I'm like, somebody already said that. Who said that?
It's like, well, because I have sons, and they tell you on a need to know basis, especially when they start new relationships, and they had all been dating for a little bit until it came to the forefront. And but that's I'm used to it. You get a lot more info from the girls, and somebody out there is going to say, not my son, he tells me every little thing, and my daughter tells me. Of course, everything is a generalization. It's only my disclaimer. These are my experiences, not
Yeah.
yours. These are mine. So no, there's no blanket statement for everything, but on the whole,
Yeah.
I would say if you were to take an average or a poll or survey, the girls are more communicative.
I would,
So
I would probably agree with that with my experience. I have boys and girls. I have a son-in-law, a daughter-in-law, and a girlfriend, significant other. And yeah, that's what I've noticed so far.
yeah, I mean,
Is yeah,
for every rule, there's an exception.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's funny. So you mentioned college essays. So you help young people with their college essays. Hold on one second. My computer charger needs to get plugged in. Give me 1 second.
sure, of course.
There we go. I think a dog walked by and unplugged it. There we go.
And you probably hear my dog in the background, just ignore and sorry, she's barking at somebody.
We're very dog friendly. So,
Okay, good, good.
so college essays, you help young people with their college essays.
Yeah, they're a common app, and they're supplementals when they need it. That's a seasonal gig. I'm like a tax person. This is a fall gig, late summer into
Mhm.
fall gig. And then come the winter, when the weather gets colder, I sit in and write more blogs and books. That's been my schedule recently. So we'll see about this winter, how it goes. If I have enough material for another book, or maybe I'll wait another year or come up with a different topic. Maybe I need grandkids first for the next book. I'm not sure. We'll
Oh,
see.
that would be interesting. Yeah, we went from 0 to 5 grandkids in less than 3 years over here.
Oh
And
my goodness. Wow. I'm a little jealous, but yeah, my younger two, my middle one's not even married yet. My younger one's still in college. So really, I won't go 0 to 5 that quickly. If at all, but we'll see, as it's meant to be.
yeah,
It will all be. I wrote a funny tongue-in piece about how I wanted to be a grandma, and some people were like, you're insane, and you need therapy, and you must be unfulfilled. And it was like, seriously, I'm feeling pretty fulfilled, but it would be fun to get some revenge on my children. I have to admit, and see them parent a little bit. So but if they didn't want to, I would be very supportive of that as well. It's
either way.
yeah.
Yeah, well, of course. But I think that's so funny because I don't know, I hang out with midlife women. A lot of midlife women that I know would love to be grandparents.
Yeah, you
And
can
I've
be
never heard
fulfilled.
anyone say that to that. But of course, you never know. Again,
Right.
with an audience of 37,000, you've probably got a little of everything there, you know?
Yeah, and there are some trolls and people, you look up their profile, they have 5 followers, they're not real, they're just looking to annoy people. So
Yeah.
if anybody's too egregious, or says anything that's really, I just block them. My
Yeah.
page, I'm not that tolerant anymore. And when we talk politics, everyone, people have different opinions and they're entitled, but they're not entitled to different facts. If they say, there was a different president, someone else won the election, who shall be named. Yeah, go away. That's didn't
Right.
happen, and move on and be who you're be, but you can't make up shit. So, and my
Right. The
page,
facts.
the facts are the facts, and I am
Mhm.
liberal, and I have some not liberal people following me, but we try and be respectful, and but that is who I am, and if that annoys you, maybe you shouldn't be following me.
Yeah.
Um, so if I'm annoying you that much, there are other pages, and there's lots of content, too much content out there. So you can find
There's something for everybody. And you know
something
what?
for everybody, and I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
That's
So
what I love is knowing, and this is where I feel, at this point, at some point in your life, you get to the point where you're not for everybody, and it
Right.
really doesn't matter. And that's okay. Bye-bye.
Right. My content, who would follow if I'm always towing the line and taking the middle ground and never taking a stand? First of all, that's not who I am. Second of all, then what is my page about? Just to make up stupid memes all the time? I mean, sometimes, but not all the time. But
Mhm.
I have a platform and I do want to use it for things besides humor that I think are important. Mental health and some politics, and the world's a little bit kooky the last several years. It's been rough between politics and COVID and small things like that.
Yeah, we've had to actually endure a lot
A
in the
lot.
last few
Yeah.
years. And it's nice that you provide humor for an outlet. It's nice that you stick to the facts. And hey, your opinion is your opinion, mine is
Right.
mine. I
Right.
never really mind following people with different views than mine.
Mhm.
I'm all about opening my eyes. I tend to keep my views to myself, which is just the way I am, but I really don't mind reading. Like you said, as long as people are not skewing the facts. Facts
Right.
are
Like,
facts. And
like
then
don't tell me, I don't want to hear about guns don't really kill people, and you just don't say that on my site, because there are people who've lost people to gun violence, and some things are just hurtful.
yeah.
Like Alex Jones, who called the whole Sandy Hook thing a hoax. I was
Oh
glad that
my gosh.
he was fine. I imagine the pain that the parents, they no longer have their children, and then somebody saying it didn't happen. These were actors, and there's no. Mm-mm.
No,
So
that's
yeah, I do have an opinion and I do put it out there.
yeah. Well, I respect that. And yeah, that's incredibly hurtful.
Yeah,
So
so that's not okay. And that's not okay on my page. So they can go to aisle 6, not aisle 4.
not aisle 4.
Aisle 4,
So
it's not happening.
I love that name. Where did that come from?
So my oldest son, my voicemail used to say on my phone, it actually still says, if you call my number, it says, sorry, you can't reach me. I'm probably in aisle 4 of the grocery store, which was true. Raising 3 boys, I food shopped a lot for them, for their friends. I mean, they're like locusts when they used to be home. And then they would say, there's nothing to eat. And I, spent $100 at the grocery. So I was there probably 5 days a week. Now I go maybe 2 to 3. And I probably don't even have to do that if I were a little more efficient. But if I didn't go, I would tell the people at the store who I'm all friends with that I won't be here because they would worry. So my oldest son, I called my site WordPress Marlene KF. He's like, that's a stupid name. Why don't you call it Thoughts from Aisle 4? Because that's your voicemail and you're always at the grocery store. So that was the oldest son's contribution. And then
Genius.
genius. He is genius. And his wife works for Facebook. So she had some Facebook ideas when I started. And yeah, the kids have been very surprisingly supportive. And the middle son, back in the day when I would just, be being me, being snarky, he used to say, you should write. He was the one who said, you should write. So they are encouraging, and writing about their frat houses has been great material when they were in them, living in them. They're disgusting frat houses.
Oh,
And
God.
I mean, boys give you a lot of good material. I'm sorry. CIA, as I said, CIA child. And apparently there are a lot of moms out there who have CIA children as well, boys especially, that I hope they have a good health plan and retirement benefits, because they are definitely, I said, my son, I think the math major thing is all a cover. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, the kids have been good material and good support. So thank you to all my children.
That
That
is
includes
really
the girls
funny.
as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, pandemic. You
Yeah.
managed to I think you made, I didn't know you then, but I'm imagining, I want to go look at your Facebook page. I'm imagining you provided incredible entertainment for people in a time where we were starving for entertainment, because we all thought we were going to die from touching our
Yeah.
groceries.
Yeah, it was terrifying. The first time I couldn't get an Instacart and I went to the grocery. I came home, I was like crying. People, they had arrows and you had to mask and you had to wait outside. They were limiting the number of people in the store.
Yeah.
It was all so traumatic. I came home and started sobbing, but we had to eat. Yeah, I had a captive audience of people, really literally a captive audience.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize how much I missed the mall and how much I missed eating out until I took it for granted. On Saturday nights there would be no grocery store and somebody would bring me food, and that didn't happen for a very long time. And other people, I was writing like, well, Saturday night, what are you all up to? And I'm watching another Netflix series. And so we commiserated what we
Yeah.
were watching and what we were doing and who we were Zooming with. And so I actually grew a tremendous amount during the pandemic. And I'm still cautious. I'll put that out there. If I go to the grocery today, which I actually have to do, I do still mask in certain places. I am going out and living my life, but I'm doing it cautiously, because
Mhm.
I know some people with long COVID, and if I get it, I get it, but I am still being on the more careful side. Most people, are not quite as careful as I am. And probably there are some people more careful than I am who, you know,
You
but
got to do what your comfort level
right.
is. So I tell
And that's
people,
what I
and
impress, right? I don't, there should be no judgment.
no
And
judgment. Mm-mm.
and you also don't know who has someone who's immunocompromised or is caring for an elderly parent, or there are a lot of factors that go into how people are living their lives now, and nobody should yell at anybody else or say anything to anybody else for what they are doing. And that's
Especially, yeah, because right, we really don't know anyone else's story, nor
backstory.
is it any of our business, right?
Right. When Governor DeSantis met with some teenagers, I don't remember what the event was, but he yelled at them to take off their masks and he said, enough with the COVID theater. And I thought to myself, maybe they have a grandparent who lives with them, or maybe they
Right.
have a parent who's sick, or maybe, you can't yell at people. He was the one doing the theater, and everyone should just mind their business. Don't tell people to take off their masks if that's what they're. And one kid kind of kept it on, the others looked at each other, they didn't know what to do, and I thought he's being a bully, and
Yeah, he was taking advantage of his authority. That's
yeah,
awful.
right.
Yeah.
Nobody should be a bully,
Mhm.
because fears are real. It's been a really hard. People's mental health has really suffered,
Yeah.
and um, so we need to be mindful and kind, and that's hard to do, and patient.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the pandemic was good for business in a sense that people were tuning in because there wasn't so much else going on. But and
Yeah.
then they stuck around after, so that's nice too.
It is nice. Well, I mean, obviously you've continued to provide content. I follow you over on Instagram, but I'll have to go visit
Yeah,
you
my
on
Instagram, I don't really write on Instagram. That's more of a personal, and I'm not a big poster. I
Mhm.
haven't figured that out yet. I really should do both because I see some of the bigger people do both, and I may try and migrate more there. I have very few followers, maybe I don't even know, 1,400 on Instagram. Not very many, because like one of my, I don't know, I don't put my writing out there. I'm posting me at the grocery store. It's not that, just family stuff.
Mhm.
Some memes I do put up there on my stories, and I may try and I am in too many different directions, and I'm not that savvy. I don't know how to really monetize that well, or grow that much, or I'm an old dog in a newer dog's game, so I'm still trying to, like, I can't believe you do. People have said do a podcast. I don't even know how to do a podcast. Like, I'm lucky I can be on your podcast. I'm amazed that you have a podcast. Like, how did you even, I'll ask you a question. How did you start that? You just
You
woke up and
know,
said, I'm going to do a podcast?
no, it did not happen like that at all. So um in 2017 I joined this. I hired a coach. She was an online coach to help with fitness businesses, to my fitness business. I didn't know how to, and this was 2017, so way pre-COVID. And I was like, I'm like this in-person trainer, nutrition coach. I kind of really like it. why aren't I doing this online? I'm like, is there an online? So I tried to learn from this person, and that was her thing. In the meantime, I forget how many women were in that group, and we would meet. We had a Facebook group, so we communicated Facebook group, email. Zoom was like brand new. I don't even know if we Zoomed that year, but we did, because we started making subgroups and we're like, let's get together and chat. I'm like, and that was the first time I Zoomed. And a couple of women were like, podcasts are really big. What do you think about starting a podcast? We're going to have a Zoom chat about it. So I joined a couple of chats and listened, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And I'm like, why would I ever have something to talk about like every single week to people? So I didn't do it. And I waited 3 years. And for 3 years, I thought about, I should start a podcast. Well, what's my topic going to be? And I'm like, well, I'm a midlife mother. That's all I know about is midlife. This is what I've done, midlife, and so in 2020, I set a date and I was like, all right, I'm going to launch my podcast before the end of September 2020. And maybe COVID has spurred me on a little bit, because I got more into listening to podcasts, and I had talked to the other women that I had spoken to. Of course, all of them were decades younger than me, trying to do these businesses. And they're like, yeah, you should start a podcast. We have, okay. So I just was like, all right, how do I learn how to do this? I'm going to do it. I had it by my launch date and I did it. And since then I've been publishing every week, but actually I'm going to every other week because I'm trying to create balance in my life.
It's a lot every week. It is. I don't post every day either. Some days I post 3 things. It's been busy with the kids were here and it was the Jewish holidays, and I can't do it every day. So when I have something to say, I say it.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'll just touch in and say, hi. But
Yeah, just checking
you
in.
can't, yeah, just saying hello, happy, National Handbag Day, Indigenous People Day yesterday. But you can't, you have to find balance, and you're not this isn't a paying gig.
Right.
Me,
Yeah,
and
no, I don't monetize my podcast.
yeah,
I don't have
yeah,
sponsors.
yeah, not
No.
yet, but you don't know where it's going, and that's I may be doing that a little bit on aisle 4 in the future. So yeah, you take things. When I wrote my first things, and I had very few free readers, I kept saying, like, what is the point of this? 3 people are reading me, and I had a friend who kept saying, you don't know where it's going to go, and you don't know where it's going to take you. And sure enough, like, I had a few people say, would you write for, Collegiate Parent? Would you write for this one? And then I started submitting more, and you really don't know where something's, and way leads to way, and you keep growing and you keep at it. And that's what I've learned. If there's something you want to do, just get up and do it, and don't worry about the end game. Just try and do a good job or have fun doing it, and the rest will take care of itself, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of where I was at, where from 10 readers to 37,000 readers, and hopefully more. But Facebook has changed their algorithm again. It's been very hard to get new readers
Yeah.
lately, and but it's that
Instagram too. The
it's at the
engagement
same
is
thing.
way down. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't have my Instagram audience is like 1,800. It's not big. And my Facebook, I do have an Air Hug Community Facebook page, and it doesn't even have 1,000. And nobody ever, it gets served to no one. Must be my content is boring.
No, and even when your content's good, I used to have things go viral quite a bit, and now it's much harder for that to happen. And
Yeah.
I don't know why Facebook keeps changing it. It is frustrating and annoying, but they also do give us a platform. I would have to go back to WordPress or doing email or something like that,
Yeah.
to get my message out. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, we write something that we own, which is not controlled by them. And
right.
yeah, it's just a choice. And it's just, I started this because women that I train, all these things came up in conversation. Women, we share, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about how women share more. And I'm like, we should get these topics out here on a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I always ask people too, what do you want to talk about?
Mm. There's a lot to talk about. Menopause. I had mental health issues during the start of menopause, and the aches and pains and what's hurting today, and sleeping is Why are we not sleeping? And
Yeah. Sleep is something I actually talked about sleep. Mental health in menopause is a really interesting topic. I don't know if you'd care to talk about it or not.
oh yeah, it's no one told me, and my regular anxiety became full blown as just at the time when my period started getting irregular. I had no idea. I didn't even make the connection at
Mhm.
first, and it had just, as my estrogen dropped, my anxiety seemed to rise in correlation. So that took a little, that was pretty bad, took a while to get under control, and all the things nobody really tells you. It's, I think more people are starting to talk about it, which is a good
Yeah, we're
thing.
normalizing it, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when I started going through this like 4.5, 5 years ago, I was blindsided. I thought like, oh, the funny hot flashes they show on TV where women are, going like this and people are
Mhm.
fanning them. And I'm like, oh, okay. The whole thing sounded great to me. I was like, oh, good, you don't get your period. That sounds, I've given at the office with the period. I've had enough of that, but
Yeah.
it's really so much more and so much more complicated than anybody ever talks about. But
Yeah.
I talk about it. That's another thing. But also there is humor in that. There's humor in most topics, maybe not
Mm.
death. Um, but there
Yeah.
is humor in a lot of subjects.
There
Um,
is.
so I try and tell these stories, but in a relatable and sometimes funny way. I mean, mental health issues aren't funny per se, but I'm not making light of that. But
No,
it's
but
but
just
yeah,
getting it out there to normalize it so
yeah.
people know, it
Don't,
happens.
right.
And
And you're not, my biggest message when people say is I want people to not feel so alone
Mhm.
in whatever they're going through, because there are other people, whatever you're feeling right now, someone else is feeling that too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would feel very alone, like it's just me, but that's not true. And it's not just me, and it's not just you. We are not so unique, none of us.
Yeah.
And we all have similar fears and insecurities. And so that's my biggest message.
Yeah.
We're not, you're not alone. And be here with us and share. And my kids aren't perfect, your kids aren't perfect. It's
No.
you don't have to pretend like anything's perfect, because we all know you have good moments, but there's perfection, not so much.
No, never. And I love that. The fact that, we go through these things and they're real. And I sometimes think of like this postpartum um mental challenges, or not postpartum menopause, but it reminds me of
Yeah.
postpartum depression.
Well,
It's
often
like, is
people
this
who have
like
one,
take
yes,
two?
have, right. It can mean I had a little bit of that as well. And that means we're sensitive to hormone fluctuations. And it makes
Yeah.
sense that if you would, I mean, not all women who have postpartum have bad menopause or vice versa, but
Hmm.
the hormone fluctuation is the struggle is real. It's horrific. It's
Yeah.
like what the heck? I thought going through it monthly, I knew what I was, but this was a whole new beast of a
A
whole new
whole
level.
new beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 5 months packed of not getting your period and then getting it. It's like
That's
PMS.
just mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mean. It's like, PMS on steroids, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm happy I'm, more on the other side of that now. I'd rather be closer to death than have to go through that
That
again.
again.
Yeah.
And I think it's really nice that and helpful that we share these things.
Yeah, it's very
So
important.
women are not alone and they
Yeah.
know.
Talk about it. Talk about it all. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you're whining, and doesn't mean it just means you're being open about it. And I gain knowledge. Sharing knowledge is important. Like, what can you tell me and what can I tell you? And people write to me, thank you, I've been going through this. When I first chronicled my mental health struggles, I would show my husband in confidence, or just
Mhm.
read it myself, how many people said, oh my God, me too, and I went through this. And people I knew but didn't know. that they had gone through it. I was
Mm.
pretty stunned, like friends even. I was like, wow, you never said anything. And they
Yeah.
maybe didn't know they could say something or felt ashamed or that it would impact their work or how people would see them differently. But
Yeah.
I, I'm still me. So I hope people didn't think less of me for
On
it.
the contrary, I think for being honest and open,
Mm.
as you said, many people wrote to thank you. So
Yeah, yeah. So that it makes me feel good when someone connects or and there's some sad chapters in the book too, because life is not just funny and
yeah,
people wrote to me, I didn't expect that, and thank you because I went through something similar. I, lost a child or I lost a sibling, or I felt like that when my parent died, and loss is part of all of it too. So yeah, it's like,
yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up because I've just been talking about grief a little bit. And it's, grief doesn't have a timeline where we can say, okay, it's kind of like the baby's 8 months old in your life. Your grief is 8 months old, or however old it is. It
right,
doesn't mean that it's
right.
done.
That's a good
Grief,
analogy. Right.
you
You should
know,
like to have those blocks. They died 8 months ago, 1 year old today, my grief. It doesn't work. It's really not linear. It's in waves.
no,
And it's really
and
rough.
not predictable. Right.
A song, a word, or whatever to
Yeah.
trigger it. But you have to be like a shark and keep moving. But it
Yeah. And
is,
keep talking about it.
yeah,
You,
yeah.
and the
And
other thing is grief of ending a relationship.
mhm.
Maybe not just death, but ending a relationship. There are a lot of people who get divorced
Yes,
and
that's a
that's,
huge. I have a lot of women friends, several, 3, 4, 5, who've gone through this. I guess they call it gray divorce at this stage in our life, that we're not newlyweds anymore. And that's a huge loss and change. And I haven't gone through that personally, but I do know people who are. I mean, there are all kinds of grief. That's a huge one.
yeah,
Um, Job loss, retirement. We're entering the age of lots of changes, and all
yeah,
those things are scary. But yeah, if you've been married for a long time and then alone, or through death, um,
yeah.
becoming widowed and widower, yeah, this is getting dark.
I
It's
know. Well, we're keeping it real,
we're
but it's
keeping it
just,
real. That's what I said. It's that's life. The funny and the sad and the hard all mixed
all mixed together. It
together.
often doesn't go as predicted, right? There is no storybook little like Hallmark card life. It's
Yeah,
just,
that's only
and
on the Hallmark Channel.
right. And every life is normal and every life is dysfunctional. I think
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
almost like a spectrum. And we don't stay, you can tell I like to talk with my hands. We don't really stay. It's not static.
Yeah,
It's in flux.
yeah,
Yeah.
always. So,
Well, I'm
but
looking forward to your third book.
yeah, if you have any topic ideas, if I don't know whether I just compile more stories. I was thinking about writing about all the horrible vacations my family went on and how dysfunctional we were regular dysfunctional in the house, but on vacation we became dysfunctional to the next level because my kids were all different interests and different ages and we could never agree, and they're very vocal, no wallflowers among them. And it was just brutal. I was thinking of entitling it. Maybe I should have just stayed home.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but
You probably need to write that book. That
I've written a few blog posts about it, how every time we left the house, you have to pray to the vacation gods to be kind, because one son broke his leg in a million pieces. And one time my husband needed stitches, or the plane didn't take off, or I mean, it could be worse than that. But yeah, there
yeah.
were many mishaps along the way when we would. And I don't travel easily. I'm very anxious and jet lagged. And we were just like, we would leave the house and my family would go from like bad to worse. So that could be part of the
I
next
don't mean to
story.
laugh, but the title, maybe we should just stay home, has got me
Yeah,
laughing.
right. I used to be, and then there were some that went off well. The vacation god smiled upon us and said, "All right, we're not going to lose your luggage, and no one's going to get sick." And it's all good. It's not gonna pour for 10 days straight. You never know what's gonna happen when you leave your home. So
That's
it's
true.
it's all a mystery. I'm sure you're thinking in your head of a few that went awry.
How did you know? Oh my gosh. On my honeymoon, rained every day.
Really, that's pretty. Where were you?
We went to Cancun, Mexico, which was not, it was 1983. It was a village with like 8 hotels.
Wow.
And like we were just going to sit on the beach the whole week.
And
And
it rained.
it was, no, it was like pouring rain,
Oh my goodness, that's
pouring
not
rain.
supposed to
We
have
had a
see?
day and a half of sun. And literally, I was like, I am not going home without a suntan.
Without a burn, just burn me,
Just
right?
let's
Right.
please come on.
Right. Right. So yeah, there are all kinds of so we'll see. I currently live in an HOA, which is interesting. There are funny stories about the rules and regulations. People, I was thinking of crowdsourcing. Yeah, my people give me great. They're funnier than my readers are actually funnier than I am. They have great stories and great ideas, so I can always turn to them for inspiration.
That's a great idea. Well, listen, thank you so much. This has been really fun. It's been, we've been up, we've been down, you've kept it real. And I'm appreciative of you. I'm really glad our paths
And right
crossed.
back,
Thank
the
you.
same. I was so honored and humbled when you reached out to me, and then had a busy 2 weeks. So I apologize if it took me a little bit, but I was very excited to meet you in person, and very honored and thankful also that we met. And this has been a ton of fun.
Hey, folks, we're going to say goodbye. Marlene and I are going to finish chatting, and you'll get this info when you get this info. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you guys had as much fun listening to this as Marlene and I did chatting. And that's it for this week. Hop back on next week, and we're going to talk even more about menopause and your brain.